I think anti-vegans are closer to being vegan than just your average person. Oh, well, you need to be doing your activism this way. The way that you're doing it is wrong. You need to be doing it this way. You're actually hurting the animals. I felt unprepared. And, if I had gone back in time, I would have prepared more. And that's why I stopped eating it, because I realized that's what it is.
So today I'm joined by a strong young fighter for animals, someone who's unafraid to speak truth to power. She recently held a widely known livestream debater accountable for ignoring non human victims, a fearless advocate who speaks with clarity and conviction. Jade for Justice, welcome to Uncaged by Vegan FTA podcast. And I'm so excited to have you as my guest today. Please tell us a bit about your background and your vegan journey.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here and share more. So I started doing activism about a year and a half ago, but I've been vegan for about 8 years. And I just recently started doing activism because I honestly just got so fed up and I just couldn't keep it inside any longer. And I had to talk about it. I had to share it. I had to get it out there. And I did, and I've come a long way since, and I've learned a lot of ways to talk and a lot of tactics to approach. And so my activism now is very different from my activism about a year and a half ago, and I'm still changing and evolving and doing the best that I can.
Good to know that. And then you have been vegan for quite some time, 8 years. And then why did you wait for 6.5 years before you got into activism?
Well, I mean, some vegans might say that I wasn't actually vegan and I was only plant-based. I didn't really have a full understanding of what veganism actually truly meant. I was eating plant-based for the animals, and I wasn't buying their skin, their leather, or anything like that. But I still hadn't quite made the connection in my head that viewing them as resources is wrong. And about 2 years ago, I saw Gary Yourofsky's Most Important Speech, and that was very eye-opening for me. And I just started thinking about it more and more and more until I couldn't not talk about it any longer.
Interesting. And that's like the number of people who say that they have been inspired by Gary Yourofsky's speech is so high. Like I almost meet every people on a daily basis who always say something or the other that they have been inspired by him to do activism or get into veganism. Just a quick note there. You said that as per a lot of vegans, you were not vegan but plant-based. But you also said that you were plant-based for the animals, right? So I'm assuming that 8 years back, you went vegan for the animals. So at that time, what was the triggering point? Like what happened and what was your lifestyle before that?
Well, so I went vegetarian when I was 10, just from thinking about the animals. Actually, somebody, like I said, I'm an animal lover, and somebody not even a vegan or vegetarian told me, well, that's kind of hypocritical because you're eating animals. And I was like, you know what, you're right. I'm not going to eat animals anymore. So I went vegetarian when I was 10. And then 5 years later, I saw the video Dairy is Scary on YouTube. And that kind of sent me down a rabbit hole. I learned about the egg industry. I learned about the honey industry. And I was like, okay, I can't be part of this anymore. I had no idea. I thought cows just make milk for us because they're cows, and chickens make eggs for us because they're chickens. But yeah, after seeing Dairy is Scary, I started eating plant-based, and I wasn't really a leather person before, but I was conscious after that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to intentionally not purchase anything with leather or animal skin or fur. And yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, you stayed uh, vegetarian for almost 5 years, and then you learned about the dairy industry. And if
Right.
I'm not wrong, that's the video by Erin Janus, right? If
Right.
is that the video? Yeah. I don't know. I've heard recently that she's not a vegan anymore. I'm not tracked that, but yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, that
unfortunately.
is that true? Is she not a vegan anymore?
That's what I've heard,
Hard.
but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Okay.
video was still very important for me.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is a viral video as well with more than 1 million views in long form on YouTube. So, of course, I'm assuming that it has been an eye opener for a lot of folks. So, okay, so that's when you decided to go vegan, but you were still not. So, essentially, like I would like to put it this way that you went vegetarian in a sense for the animals, but you were naive about the dairy industry. Then you learned about the dairy industry and all the other industries, and that's when you become vegan for the animals. But probably it's the ethics and the philosophy of animal rights that is something that you learned later, and then
Right.
you uh, became a vegan, became an activist, and now you're doing so much on. I've seen you on Instagram, but I'm also told that you are very active on TikTok as well. Unfortunately, I haven't seen TikTok because it's banned in India. But that being said, that being said, you're doing some amazing stuff, and I would like to jump straight into your activism. There's one very interesting thing which you said, and I'm trying to phrase it from your content. You said something like this: that going vegan reduces the risk of chronic diseases like heart disease, is equivalent to saying that refraining from sexual predation reduces the risk of STDs. So that's very crazy and powerful. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So the reason that I said that is because the reason to be vegan isn't for how it benefits you. There's plenty of selfish benefits to veganism, like the environmental benefits, the health benefits, like so many health benefits.
Hmm,
But at the end of the day, it's just about the animals. And that was something that
hmm,
I was failing to understand when I first went vegan, and that's why I say, maybe I was only plant-based because I was
hmm,
thinking about how it benefited me, and I mean, I was thinking about the animals too, but I was thinking a lot more about myself. And now I really do understand, like, so yeah, it's the same thing with the
hmm,
context of a predator. You don't stop being a predator because of how it benefits you. You do it because it's the right thing to do.
hmm. Very true. And um, I was just having a conversation with a non-vegan the other day, and it was in a street outreach where they were saying, hey, veganism, I mean, it's an extreme version of vegetarianism. Why don't you promote being a vegetarian and push people from non-vegetarian to vegetarian? So in India, the vegetarian demographics is quite significant, and I told them some things very similar to what you are saying, that hey, when you like putting veganism in the same context as a vegetarian and non-vegetarian is doesn't make sense. Veganism should be put in the same context as feminism, as anti-racism, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the essence of it. um, that being
Right.
said, a lot of, yeah, I think that's what you also try to capture. That being said, there are people who have this theories, who have this theory, and this is I'm talking about vegans, that they'll say that hey, humans are selfish, and if you tell them about animals, they'll not change, and hence you have to give them some other selling points that's going to help them. And that's when they talk about hey, you should become vegan for the animals and for the environment. So what do you think about that strategy? What, like, some vegans say that hey, we should sell these points.
I mean, if that's what they want to do, I think all forms of activism are important, but that's not what I'm going to do because I don't think it's a solid decision. Like
Mm,
people do stuff that's bad for their health all the time. People do stuff that's bad for the environment all the time, and they're aware that it's bad for their health, like smoking and drinking or whatever. They're aware that it's bad for the environment, whatever they're doing, and they're doing it
mm,
anyways. I think that it's like extremely important to view this as a justice movement.
Hmm. Rightly said. Like, I completely agree with you, but I just wanted to um, get your views on it. And generally, when I talk to people, I always tell them, hey, and this is how I have bifurcated them in my head, at least, and this is how I deploy my conversation. So I'll share that with you. So I always tell people that, okay, when we have this conversation, there is why to go vegan, and then there is how to go vegan. So why to go vegan is should be very solid, and there's one reason that this is a social justice movement for the animals. People have to think from the victim's perspective, and once someone is aligned on the value of why to go vegan, and that's when the how to go vegan and how to get the health benefits and how to like get other benefits of plant-based diet per se comes into picture. So that way
Right.
it's like an easier conversation.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it's true that some people like are so selfish that they will never go vegan for the animals. And that's why I say all forms of activism are important because, maybe the people that are talking about health and environment, they are having an impact. And I also think it's easier to go vegan, like, and have the vegan mindset if you're not eating animals. If you are eating and exploiting animals, it's very easy to ignore the victims and to just live in um, live in like um, um,
A kind of
ignorance.
situation, ignorance, yeah, ignorance and feeling that you're doing something, you're not doing something wrong, and
Right.
that level of ignorance where, yeah, and unfortunately the price of the ignorance is not paid by you, it's paid by someone else who's completely um, ignored. So yeah,
Right.
and that is right. And also, like, to your earlier point, that there are people who specifically talk about only the environment, and there are some folks who always talk about the diet aspect of things, and that is also important, um, at this stage at least, because I feel that the number of vegans are so less that doesn't matter what you do, if you truly do it in a consistent manner, you'll find an audience for yourself who will get inspired by you. They may not become vegan because your messaging is not about ethical veganism, but they will become more plant based. And if that happens, that's also, like, ideally we would want them to go ethical vegan, but at least if they are going plant based, in my opinion, the best thing that can come out of it is that they will get into the vegan ecosystem. For example, someone is, let's say, inspired by Dr. Michael Greger. So they read How Not to Die and is inspired by the plant based aspect. So they will try plant based, and then they will try, most likely they will consume similar type of content on social media, etc. And they might then stumble upon someone like Jade for Justice, and then suddenly the message of why vegan hits, and the how vegan was kind of already sorted, and now the why vegan is also there. So then that can be of help as well, and something similar that happened with you as well, right?
Yeah, it is. It is very similar. And, like, if I had seen Gary's speech first, like, I wonder how
Hmm.
different things would have gone. Like, if that would have been the thing that I saw instead of Dairy is scary, I wonder how different things would have gone. And, like, if, but, also, like, if I had seen it first, I don't know if I would have become an activist right away. I
Hmm.
think that seeing his speech made becoming an activist very easy for me
Hmm.
because I had already had the house sorted out. Like, I'd already been living vegan for years.
Hmm. Interesting. And you said, like, you don't know how that would have turned out. One of the outcomes could have been that you could have become an anti-vegan as well. I'm just thinking there could have there must be people out there who now, if they listen to someone like Jade for Justice, they become anti-vegan. Like, who's Jade to tell me that my life is immoral and so on and so forth? So that could also happen, right?
I mean, it's possible, but I also think that I think anti-vegans are closer to being vegan than just your average person. Um,
Wow, that's quite a statement. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, they're consuming, at least from my experience, I've talked to a few anti vegans and eventually
Mhm.
convinced them to go vegan. and they're
Hmm.
constantly on my page, constantly consuming the media that I put out. And, even if they're just on there to comment a bunch of bacon emojis or whatever, they are getting the message. And, just eventually it clicks.
Interesting hypothesis. So essentially, what you are saying is that if someone is an anti-vegan, they are going out of their way to talk against veganism, and in doing so, because how in today's day and age, consumption happens on social media, and the algorithm then shows you more stuff with regard to veganism. So even they are talking anti-vegan stuff, but they are exposed to the right message of veganism on a frequent basis, and hence you're saying that increases their chances of becoming a vegan as opposed to an average non-vegan who is nowhere in the algorithm of the vegan world.
Yeah, I think so because they're thinking about it. The average person isn't even thinking about it.
Hmm. Interesting. That's an interesting take. So let me ask you something on that front. So let's say, because you have been doing social media and you know that cracking the algorithm is also a game in itself and it takes a lot of effort from our side as content creators. Do you think making nonsensical content, which can be around veganism, but saying something really absurd, which will catch the attention of a lot of people and then people will start talking about it? Do you think then that's a good strategy? Because I've seen people do that. That's why I'm asking you.
I mean, that's hard to say. I think, yeah, I think overall, I mean, it does have a good positive impact. Like the first person that I ever heard about veganism from was Freely the Banana Girl back when she was making videos like basically just body shaming people and, kind of not being very nice. And that's like what got me
Can
like the first time I heard about veganism.
can you tell us a bit about? Can you tell me a bit more about this account? What they used to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was like 8 years ago, so I don't remember exactly word for word, but she would make videos specifically like on popular other YouTubers and call them out. And like she would say a lot of wild things at times. She'd be like, oh, you're too fat because of this, and you need to lose weight. And it might not even be somebody that was overweight or but then she would bring it back to the animals a lot of the time. She's like, you're like what you're doing is wrong. You're exploiting these animals and it's wrong and you need to change. And
Hmm.
there was that truth in there. There was also a lot of other wild stuff that she would say, like the body shaming. I didn't think that was necessary. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't think I would have seen her videos if it wasn't for that. It got her pushed out. So, yeah, I don't really know. It's hard for me to tell, but I know that it did have a good overall impact with me, and I've seen other activists do like say wild things to get people's attention and then they end up turning people vegan.
Hmm. Even if they don't end up turning people vegan, but they get the person inside the social media vegan ecosystem.
Right.
So so from that perspective, it could be that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think one of the best approaches within this type of activism would be the dog meat thing. I love the dog
Hmm.
meat activists. I think that it's just such a great tactic.
Yeah. That is, but I don't think that the dog meat tactic is that wild as compared to the earlier example you gave, which is like making absurd claims, because dog meat tactic is at the end of the day still a very valid hypothetical where you're still making people think in a particular direction. So I think that is like a very sweet spot where you're getting the right message while not being outrageously absurd. But the other example that you gave, where the person is simply body shaming and making absurd claims and stuff like that, and also becoming a target for a lot of other content creators. But yeah, then in doing so, you are reaching out to a lot of neutral people out there. So from that perspective, it could be helpful. Like personally, I would probably never do that as of now. At least I've never done that, and I don't plan to do it in the future. But yeah, it was something worthwhile to think about, right?
Right. But
Yeah.
like also with the dog meat activists, obviously we know it's not that wild of a claim, but I think most people see it as an extremely wild claim, or
Oh yeah.
an extremely wild approach. Like probably, I feel like most people that aren't vegan would see that as maybe even more wild than what Freely was doing with body shaming people.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be true. um, I've done that a couple of times, and during street activism it gains a lot of traction. I have actually interviewed Jack Higgs. You know Jack?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
love his dog meat approach. I feel like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like the pro.
Yeah. And he's all dressed up for that, like in a very in a particular fashion where he's like all in the character. And I was discussing this with his whole strategy behind it. And of course and also there's um L Elwood dog meat brand or something like that, right? On
Yeah.
Instagram. Is it Elwood?
Yeah, Elwood's
Or
organic dog.
yeah, yeah. So they also do that as well. So yeah, I mean that is a good tactic, because uh, it really gets into that hypocritical zone of people where they love one animal but just out of conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think that in someday, because right now I see like what the kind of activism that you do is hard hitting advocacy for animals, where you are relying mostly on facts and holding people accountable with very strong analogies. Do you think that someday you will do absurd kind of activism?
No, I think, well, I mean, I don't know. I've changed my approach many times since I've
Hmm.
started doing activism. I've kind of tried out a lot of different things. But I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing right now. And I feel
Hmm.
like if I was in the animal's position, this is how I would want to be stood up for. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm at.
And you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Have you thought about what's your big plan? Right, okay, you're doing TikTok, Instagram, talking to people, you're very young, but at that being said, have you thought about the big picture? Like, okay, these are my stepping stones, but someday I have to do this. Have you given some thought to that?
No, I don't. I really don't know. I'm just taking it a day at a time.
Hmm.
I would love for this to be like the only thing I do with my life. I'm
Hmm.
doing some other things for work on the side, but I
Hmm.
would love for this to just be like my whole entire life because it's the most important thing to me. And
Hmm.
every second that I spend like not focusing on this, I do feel like I feel the urgency and I feel bad and
Hmm.
yeah, but I
Hmm.
don't know what the big picture is. I guess I'm just going to keep on doing this and try to get
Hmm.
as many people as I possibly can to go vegan.
Hmm. And you have been doing it only for like 1.5 years, but you have been doing it consistently, and I'm confident that you strike me as someone that who will pursue this in a very consistent manner. And I'm sure that as you go through this journey, you'll think about this and probably shift your perspective and tactics at a micro level, maybe. So that generally happens with a lot of activists. And you said like this is something that you are not doing full time. So like financially, what do you do then? Like, and how much time, let's say, you dedicate to activism on a weekly basis?
Well, activism is the number one thing I dedicate my time to. But
Okay.
I'm an American and I'm living in Portugal and I don't have a work visa here. I've been waiting for a work visa for the last 2 years, but I don't have
Hmm.
one. So I'm doing all types of stuff online
Hmm.
to like make money. Like I do make some money from streaming. I have other accounts that I stream from also.
Hmm.
I do loyal fans. I
Hmm.
do like paid private calls and just talking to people. Like lots of people want to talk to me about lots of different ideas, and so I say, okay, we can do a paid private call and chat. But I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm doing all different types of things for work so that I can focus my time on activism and the animals.
Okay, so you're essentially hustling online and doing stuff to meet your financial needs, but that is essentially till the point that you find stable financial ground for activism. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes.
All right. And yeah, I mean, I was just having this conversation with James, who's the founder of Activism WTF, and one of our conversation was around doing full-time activism. And there are multiple ways in which people can make money while doing activism. And I think one of the things that you are doing, and if you continue to do so, I'm very confident that people will come forward and support your work as well. So I'm assuming you have a Patreon account, right?
I do have a Patreon, yes.
Yeah. So we'll share that in the link of this discussion, and request everyone to please check out Jade's work and support Jade. We need more and more people into activism, doing it full time. And at the
Yes,
very
thank
least,
you.
we definitely need Jade doing activism full time.
Yes. Yeah, I have if anybody wants to support me on my link tree, Jade for Justice, my link tree, I have all of the links that you could support me on over there.
All right. And have you thought about joining an organization, animal rights organization?
I mean, I have thought about it, but I kind of like doing my own thing. Um, I like the way that I do it. I think I know myself and I know what works best for me. I
Hmm?
also love Anonymous for the Voiceless, their
Hmm?
approach. I think that they're
Hmm?
fantastic. And I will be joining them in Amsterdam
Hmm?
soon. And I don't know what to expect, but doing this stuff in real life is like terrifying to me. I'm
Hmm?
comfortable online. I'm very comfortable online because I have the whole thing in my control.
Hmm?
But I think it'll be a great learning experience, and that's why I'm doing it, to become a better activist and
Yeah.
get the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is, you are joining them for doing activism, so that's one thing. But you can also explore animal rights organizations and see what other job offerings they have. So like, I'll just share a bit of my experience. So I was into corporate for over a decade, and I was working, and at the same time, like after my job used to end on a day, like I'll just start working on my independent activism. So I was doing that, and it was burning me out because I was getting paid in my company, so I had to work there and then do activism. So I was like, every day I was easily working 14 hours, 15 hours a day, and half of that was not activism. And that's when I started looking for avenues to work with organizations, and Vegan FTA happened um, to be the organization where I ended up, and now I'm doing this full time. So with Vegan FTA, of course, I'm hosting this podcast, but otherwise, I whatever I was doing in my earlier job, the skill set that I had, I deploy that here. So that is one thing that you and I would suggest a lot of young activists out there. Please check out the job opportunities. There is actually a platform, I think it's called Vegan Advocacy Jobs or something like that. We'll put the link in the bio. I'll share with you as well. We'll put the link in the description of this YouTube video. um, uh, Suggestion for you, and also suggestion for a lot of young activists to see if there are positions out there which where you can bring in your skill set. So then you can continue to do that in the back end, and at the same time you can still do your activism. So then that would be like a really good combination.
Yeah, it definitely would. I'll be looking into that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, and I genuinely hope, and please people support Jade. We want Jade to become a full-time activist. Yeah. I just wanted to check with you one thing, that in doing this, you have been doing it for 1.5 years, and like you have a very special situation where you're trying to do other stuff as well. Do you get existential crisis sometime that what you are doing is futile, or like anything which gives you a discomfort that I'm doing this instead I should do this, or something of that sort?
I mean, I get the feeling with like how much of a difference I'm making. You know, I was thinking the other day, okay, if I get one person every day to go vegan, then,
Mm,
you know, like by the end of my life, that's just not enough people.
mm,
I could spend every single day of my life getting people to go vegan,
mm,
and it's like not enough for the
mm,
animals. But
mm,
I just got to focus on what I can do. You know, that's why I'm not the only one doing activism. And that's why it's important for every vegan to be doing activism. So, you know, if you're
mm,
not doing activism, I think you definitely should like think about all the difference that you could make. I didn't even intend on making
mm.
a difference with my videos when I first started. You know, I was kind of just ranting at the camera and getting stuff off my chest. And it just kind of, I just never stopped talking.
Yeah, but you should definitely not feel hopeless on that front for sure, because you are making vegans, and you are making ethical vegans, so they in turn will also, hopefully, if not all the 365 people that you make vegan in a year, but let's even assume that, let's say 20 of them become activists just like yourself, then the ripple effect is huge, because they are now also helping out others as well. And you so rightly said that we need more and more vegans to become activists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
important. My only regret about being an activist is that I didn't do it sooner.
yeah, I would have guessed that. Yeah, because I this is like two regrets that vegans have. That one, they did not they did not become vegan sooner. Secondly, they did not become activist sooner. So yeah, but hopefully, like with our collective effort, we will be moving towards a more positive outlook, and hopefully we'll have more and more vegans. And I'm very hopeful from at least the social media front. And I know that the coming 5 to 10 years, it's going to be super important for the movement across the globe, is what I feel. Like it's going to be the defining era of the animal rights movement. uh, and hopefully it will be a positive outcome for the movement. And I wanted to check this with you, that you have been in the social media space for some time, and you have, of course, observed a lot of vegans as well. What is that one thing about vegans that irritate you?
The one thing about vegans that aided me, seeing their courage and seeing how like they didn't care about being judged by others. You know, they're just doing it for the animals. That's very inspiring to me. Um, because it's like, okay, I don't really need to care about everybody hating me or whatever, because people are going to like me or they're not going to like me. That's how it's always going to be.
Mhm,
Um, you know, people like Tash Peterson have been extremely inspiring to me.
mhm, mhm,
Um, there's tons of vegans that have seriously inspired me, but of
mhm,
course, the most inspiring is the animals.
yeah. That's a very nice answer, but the question that I asked you, and we'll remember that, okay, Tash Peterson has inspired you, but what I asked you is that one thing about vegans that irritate you.
Oh, I thought you said aided. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah.
No worries.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's the thing about the vegan haters is like it hurts more from coming from the vegans than the non-vegans.
Yeah.
But
Give Can you give an example? So essentially, you're saying that receiving hate from vegans is more hurtful for you.
right.
Yeah. Can you give an example? I can totally relate to that. And can you give an example?
I mean, there's so many examples of this, but yeah, I've gotten hate from within the vegan community, and they're like, oh, well, you need to be doing your activism this way. The way that you're doing it is wrong. You need to be doing it this way. You're actually hurting the animals with what you're doing.
Can you tell me the specifics of that? Because I know this is such a big thing, especially in the West. There are groups who will just publicly shame you. So what was it exactly that? What did they say that? Okay, you are doing what wrong, and how you should do it?
Um, I mean, people tell me that I need to be focusing on the environment. People tell me that I need to
Hmm.
be focusing on human issues. People tell
Hmm.
me that I need to be focusing on all other types of things besides the animals. And I'm not going to focus on anything else but the animals. But that,
Hmm.
they do tell me that it hurts the movement. They also tell me, oh, well, I've been told by certain like feminist vegan activists that me using language like rape when the cows are being raped is bad for the movement, and I
Hmm.
just couldn't disagree more.
Hmm. Hmm. What are your thoughts on that? That's a powerful line, and I know that there's this um, discussion around this, that we should not be using the words which symbolizes human experiences to describe animal experiences. So, and of course you disagree with that statement. So what are your thoughts around that?
I mean, it literally fits the definition. Like, I think
Hmm.
using accurate language is important, and not
Hmm.
minimizing the victim's experience is extremely important. And,
Hmm.
like when I started eating plant based and I saw the video Dairy is Scary, she
Hmm.
didn't use the word rape, but I was thinking in my head, this is rape. And that's why I stopped eating it, because like I realized like that's what it is. And
Hmm.
people like to focus on how different we are from other animals. And I think it's extremely important to focus on the similarities because we're the same in all the ways that matter.
Hmm. Very true, and I 100% agree with you. My only caveat to that is, and that while using these words, and this is what I tell people, I take some training sessions here in India. I tell people that technically there's nothing wrong with using those words, because that is legit what is happening to these animals, right? You use the word enslaved, you use the word murder, rape. That is what is happening to them. Make no mistake that it's any different for them. The only thing that one needs to be careful is how they use these words, and how they control the conversation, especially in one-to-one discussion. Sometimes it could happen that you trigger the other person because um, you fail to communicate from your side properly. So in that case, just take a learning from on your end, that while you should hold the other person accountable, be very assertive in your approach, but still, like, how you frame the statement, that is something, especially in one to one. Like when we are making content, then we can go as hard. When it's one sided content, we can say stuff, but in a conversation, like saying directly that, hey, you support rape, something like that. And also, like, you have to gauge what is the level of comfort in that conversation so far. Like, I would phrase it differently and probably ask them this question: hey, you see what is, like, this is happening to these animals, right? And if this were to happen to a human being, then what would you call this? And let them come to that conclusion. Yeah, this is a sexual exploitation. So I think just that nuance when you're talking to someone. But otherwise, I 100% agree with you that we should make the strongest case for the animals, and this is happening to them.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. It's what I've found with activism, and I've only been doing this for a short period of time, but what I've found is that asking leading questions and getting them to come to the conclusion themselves is the most effective way.
Yes.
What I have done streams before, and the title of the stream was like non-vegans support violence, rape, murder, whatever.
Hmm.
That like was not effective at all.
Hmm.
People just got extremely mad at me, and I got emotionally heated because people are arguing against it, and I'm speaking facts, I'm telling the truth, but they're not ready to accept it. So it was just a horrible back and forth. And yeah, you're right. The way that we frame things and the way that we deliver the message is very important.
Yeah. And also, like the title that you used, now again going back to the earlier thing, that would be a more clickbaity title. Like more people will actually come, even though. So this is something very interesting that I have observed, that when we do activism, we have to zoom out of the situation and also decide in our head that who's our audience right now. So for example, let's say I'm talking to person X. Now, if my audience is only person X, I'll have a very toned down approach and talk to them very, very nicely and ensure that they come to the conclusion and so on and so forth. But if, let's say, I'm talking to person X and the whole thing is being recorded or something of that sort, and let's say there's an audience for that, in that situation, I'll probably, given the background of Mr. X or Mrs. X or Miss X, I'll not even hold back from ridiculing the person. So, for example, I was talking to Jamie the other day that let's say, Jade, you go to the Piers Morgan show, so then you know that no matter what you do, that person is not going to change based on what we have seen so far, that he ridicules vegans, right? So probably the
Right.
best course of action in that discussion is to ridicule that person and probably talk to them in a manner which for an individual conversation doesn't come out really respectful. But then you are thinking that my audience right now is the people who are watching this, and they can see that how ridiculous the other person's position is, and then change. So that is a very important balance, I feel. And for content creators, I always tell people, just be mindful what you are doing. Like, and it can be
Yeah.
like, and sometimes it can happen that the person X is also your audience, and at the same time, people who are watching it, they're also your audience, like how the earthling at debates are, right? So something of that sort. So that balance is really important.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like I do all this online. And so I have conversations with people online that I would never have with anybody in person. And like yeah, the sole goal is to get them to become hypocritical, and they make themselves look foolish, and then that's the purpose is for the audience, and it does have a big
Hmm.
impact because people can
Hmm.
see how unbelievable these arguments sound. But in person, in real life, I wouldn't waste my time on these people that I know are never going to change.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that is also a very important point, that because your time is limited, your effort and energy is limited in that sense. So talking to person X, does it make even sense if you have arrived at a conclusion that this person is being rigid and being ridiculous? So yeah, you were recently in a debate with a very popular live streamer. His name is Dean Withers. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And
Right.
we have all seen that, but would like to, and you have given your perspective, but I would still like to hear from you. One, like in a single sentence, how was that experience for you?
I mean, it was unexpected. I just kind of
Okay.
scrolled into his TikTok live, and I had seen maybe one or two of his videos before,
Yeah.
and I just requested to join, and I was the first person to come up. So I felt unprepared. And,
Mhm.
if I had gone back in time, I would have prepared more. But yeah, I honestly just didn't even expect it. It just
Hmm.
happened.
And how many people were watching at the time?
I don't know, because on TikTok there was like a few thousand people, but he was also streaming it on YouTube that had a few thousand people. I think he might have been streaming it on Twitch or other places too. So thousands of people were watching.
Hmm. Hmm, hmm, hmm.
And he
Okay.
made a ridiculous claim. You saw, you heard. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. I haven't seen the whole part, but I saw the part where you asked him that if, and just for context, everyone, this person that we are talking about uh, is someone who is a celebrated debater, in the sense has millions of followers on Instagram. I've seen like close to 2 million followers. How many on TikTok?
I don't know, millions.
Millions, yeah. So pretty big account, and is goes to all the um, the glorified spaces like Jubilee debate and so on and so forth. And Jade was in their debate, live debate on TikTok, and Jade did hold them accountable. That, and this person is left leaning, by the way. So essentially, talks about anti-oppression and so on and so forth. And Jade hold them accountable that, hey, if you call yourself anti-oppression, then why are you not a vegan yet? And the person just completely dodged the question and went into a completely different direction and talked about holocaust and stuff like that. He legit dodged.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy jumps and gaps in logic.
Yeah, which is very strange because this person takes pride in being a debater and is someone who exposes the right wing in the US, and was actually sounding like more of someone who supports an oppressive system, which was very strange and hypocritical on their part. But you said that you felt that you were underprepared for that, and of course it can happen because maybe you were just scrolling and you just went there and just happened, right?
Yeah,
And then
that's
you
how it
made
happened.
yeah, and then you made up a few follow-up videos as well, where you brought clarity to your stance as well, right? Would you like to talk about that? Like, why did you feel you were underprepared, and what was the point that you felt could have been constructed and put forward better?
Um, well, it was also hard to talk because he kept on muting my microphone. He wouldn't let me talk, but
Oh,
I wish that I had known that he was going to completely misrepresent veganism, because then I would have defined veganism when I first started.
mm,
It would have been like, so veganism is a
mm,
principle against exploiting other animals.
mm,
That's it. Because he made this false, like, he made a false dichotomy, and he
mhm.
was misrepresenting veganism and
What was the false
misrepresenting.
dichotomy?
He said that he can't be vegan because then he would have to be in favor of murdering 10-year-old boys drinking cow's milk, basically.
Okay.
So he's like, yeah, this is the problem with veganism. It took a few questions to get to that point, but yeah, that's where we landed. Um,
Okay.
and I don't know. I don't know how I could have prepared myself more, just because my microphone kept on getting muted. So even if, I mean, I guess it could have gone differently, but I don't even know if I would have been able to say what I really wanted to say. But I got a lot of pushback on the first thing I said when I joined. He was like, so his debate is like trying to convince MAGA people to not be MAGA. So I joined,
Hmm.
and he was like, hello, like,
And just for the context, who are not Americans, can you define what MAGA is?
right, MAGA is like Make America Great Again. It's Trump supporters. So he's
Yeah.
debating Trump supporters. And I joined, and he's like, hello, Jade, are you MAGA? And my first thing that I said was, I'm actually apolitical, but I just was wondering, because you say you're against oppression, why aren't you vegan yet?
Hmm.
Why are you still supporting the oppression of animals? And I got a lot of pushback on the apolitical thing. Like, lots of, specifically vegans, are like, hey, that's not okay to say that you're apolitical. That's coming from a place of privilege and whatever. And I don't know, maybe I
Hmm.
would have worded it differently, but
Hmm.
my goal was to move the topic away from politics. And I think I did that
Hmm.
successfully.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've seen that clip of yours on Instagram where you said apolitical, and I could totally make out that during the discussion you said you used that term so that you move away from this whole politics of the American right versus left MAGA supporter thing, and bring the focus to animals. But yeah, probably some people took it in the light that, hey, you, because being apolitical means that you are in a privileged position, that the current political system is benefiting you. But that was not your intent, was it? Like, you
No, it
probably, if you
wasn't
could.
my intent. You know,
Yeah.
my intent was to make it so that my ideas that I was proposing could be applied to anybody on any political spectrum, because
Hmm. Hmm.
you don't need to belong to any political party to be vegan. And I was there to
Hmm.
represent the animals.
Hmm. 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 But now you do realize that, like, being a vegan, like, I feel so, and I would like to check with you now, that being a vegan, it is a political position, because we want some um, legal framework at the end of the day. Like, this is my aim, that at the end of the day there should be a legal framework protecting animals, and for that, being a vegan is a political position. But I rightly agree with you that you don't have to be affiliated with the current political left and right to be a vegan or not, right? So yeah.
Right. Yeah. It can, anybody from any political party can be vegan, but you're right. It is political. It is definitely political, but not for any party.
Yeah, not for the current system and the current party in that sense. But yeah, but I guess, yeah, you since you were underprepared, you use that word, and then people were like, hey, how could you say this? And trust me, I say this, I can empathize with you from my experience. 4 years or 4.5 years back, there used to be this app called Clubhouse, and someone, like, I was cornered by a group of people, and I was not very I wasn't very well worded, and my knowledge was also limited on other aspects of politics. And they asked me, hey, are you a capitalist? And I said yes, because I was not, like, I just wanted to end the discussion on capitalism. I just want to say, like, I now I have a very elaborate answer on that, but that time I just said yes, very similar to what you were trying to do, that can we end this, like, in my head I was like, can we end this conversation and let's talk about animals? And in the
Yeah.
process, you say something, and then people uh, corner you for that. And it's unfortunate, but yeah, we learn from that. But I still feel that you did a very good job, and great that you made up those follow-up videos, right? Because that clarifies your stance, and it can happen with anyone, right? That in a particular high pressure situation, we are not putting our best foot forward, but at the same time we learn, and then we evolve from there.
Right. Yeah. And then the other thing that I wish that I had said, which I actually did try to say, but he kept on muting my microphone, was pointing out his false dichotomy. Because I've seen him call out like um, people, Trump supporters arguing in bad faith all of the time. And,
Mhm.
and then he's arguing in bad faith and not being genuine.
Yeah, that is one thing which, in general, when it comes to veganism, and generally I don't discuss politics on this podcast, but I'll just probably touch a bit on this one. That is something I've been observed in India as well, that the people who are left leaning are generally there. If you just look at their core values, that, hey, you are left leaning, what are your core fundamentals? And they'll say that we are anti oppression, anti exploitation, so on and so forth, right? And then you see that they are exactly opposing that when it comes to veganism, which tells me a very interesting thing, which I was having a conversation with someone a couple of years back, and they said this, and it stayed with me, that generally in all the other social justice movement, if you are a decent person, then you will side, uh, you will be anti-oppression. But in all its essence, you don't have to really do something out of your way to become um, to come to the position of an anti-oppression. You just have to be like a decent person, but your life doesn't change drastically, right? And in many cases you can be a neutral person, like from stakeholder point of view, you can be a neutral person in a particular social justice movement, and then it's convenient for you to take the side of the oppressed, because it's you don't have to change your life in any way. But when it comes
Right.
to veganism, it's one of those social justice movement where lip service alone can't help you. You actually have to look at your choices. The chances are that you are currently in a position of privilege, you are the oppressor, and then you have to reflect on that, accept that your family, what you have been doing for years, your friends, everyone, they are in that position of privilege and in that position of exploiter. So accepting that and then changing that. So essentially the change steps involved in the movement of veganism is really high, and that shows the hypocrisy of a lot of people.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, like, how against oppression these people actually are. You know, like are they actually like feminist or against
Yeah,
racism or whatever
yeah,
because that's how they really feel or because that's how it benefits them the most. You know, it's not beneficial in society to be sexist.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
beneficial in society to be racist or homophobic. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, it does make me wonder that.
Yeah, that could be the case. Actually, my partner, who's a feminist, and she was saying this amazing point the other day, that in our society, and this is just one of her hypotheses based on her limited experience, that the number of people who are sexist in our society will is actually way higher, but they don't act accordingly because being sexist is not acceptable in the society. So that is the thing. So people like essentially not showing their true colors, and that could be the case, right? But
Yeah, it's true. And that's why online so many more people have no problem being sexist or racist or whatever type of prejudice they hold. Like
mm,
you'll go in real life and there's way like exponentially less of the prejudice. And yeah, that was something that I also discovered since like I became an activist was how sexist the world actually is because I didn't spend time online like at all before that. And so I thought, you know,
mm,
it's like it's pretty equal like right now, and like feminism isn't really exactly needed right now in like the more developed countries at least. But no,
mm.
I was very wrong, and I learned that going online.
Yeah, because the repercussions online, people perceive that the repercussions online is less, so they can choose to come to their to their real tendencies, come closer to their real tendencies, and say stuff which they would not dare to do it in person. Like
Right.
even the kind of comments that we get as vegans, sometime people will not dare to do that if they meet us face to face, because there are repercussions, there are legal repercussions, and so on and so forth, right? But online, like, because, and especially with an anonymous account, that at the end of the day, the person who's making a sexist remark from an anonymous account, or any type of hateful remark on any front, is ultimately a human being. It's not like a bot who's writing it, right? So they hold those values, and they had to like wear a cape, so like a super villain, an anti superhero kind of thing, that you are wearing your cape, you're hiding your identity to be hateful, to show your real nature. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's, and that is something you feel that you have come to the realization after becoming active online.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that there was sexist people out there, but like I just didn't really know the full extent of it until I started streaming online, and yeah, it was very eye-opening. And yeah,
And
it's true. People say things that they would never say in real life behind their screen, but it's what they are really thinking and what they really mean. But that goes both ways. You know, I also say things online. That's what I really think and what I really feel, and I would never say it in person. Like, for example, you know, going vegan for your health is like not abusing children so that you don't get an STD or whatever.
hmm, hmm, yeah, but there's a difference between you saying that and, let's say, someone passing a sexist remark on you. On one side, it is coming from a position of being hateful and having some sort of bias, but what you are saying is something not coming from a position of hate. You are trying to hold people accountable to make them change for the better,
Right. It's true. And I'm
right?
I'm doing it literally just to stand up for somebody else. So it is kind of like the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So even so, someone can, for example, there could be, and let's, even if we move outside of the vegan movement, there could be someone who speaks up for a certain human rights issue, and probably they can't be as assertive in person, but they use social media because probably that helps them with that kind of communication where you are not in front of someone, so they are more assertive and they are holding people accountable with harsher words. But then again, what is the objective, what is the intent there? Are they doing it to put the other person down, or are they doing it because they are standing up for a certain cause and trying to improve the world, right? So in that regard, there's a huge difference when people are legit passing sexist, racist, casteist remark online. And
Right.
yeah, and that actually shows the kind of world that we live in, which is sometimes scary as well. And moving on to a slightly chiller topic, lighter topic, you called yourself vegan sexual. What does that mean?
um, well, I made that video because I have no interest in being with anybody that's not vegan. I have
Okay.
absolutely no interest of being intimate with anybody that's not vegan for
Mm,
multiple reasons. First of
mm,
all, if you view the way that I think about it is like if somebody else thinks that their personal pleasure is a good justification to violate somebody else's body, that's
mhm,
just not anything that I want to be anywhere near, and especially not anything that I want to be intimate with. It's too risky.
mm, hmm. Too risky means?
Well, I mean, what if they want to use my body like that? What if they violate my body like that? If they think that their personal pleasure is a good justification to do something without somebody else's consent, I
Hmm.
mean, you can see where I'm going with this.
Yeah. Okay. So a few perspective there. One is that what do you have to say about people who are vegan, who are activists, but they became vegan and activist after being committed to someone, and now their partners are not vegan anymore. I know a lot of people like that, and it's a difficult conversation. But I would like to take your perspective, so that there, so there's a person X who is a vegan activist, but their partner Y is not a vegan, um, because and their relationship started before both of them were non-vegan.
Well,
Before
I
both of
mean,
them, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, I think the person that just became vegan, they need to share with their partner why they became vegan and tell them about the animals, tell them about
Hmm,
this justice movement.
hmm.
And, if they don't care, find a new partner. It's not worth
Yeah.
it to
So
stay
that's
with them.
yeah. So that's where I was getting at, right? So because, and that's why I said that the person is an activist, so we can assume very safely that they have done the advocacy with their partners, but the partner is not changing. So now that's a very tricky position, and also I think both of us are in a position of privilege when it comes to this. In your case, because you do not have a partner yet, so you can choose a vegan partner. In my case, my partner and I, we are both ethical vegans. So I think we are both in a position of privilege, but let's try to unravel this. So if you are saying that if someone has become a vegan, ethical vegan, and their partner is not becoming vegan after multiple rounds of advocacy and all the nitty-gritties of veganism has been laid out in front of them, are you saying that then in such a situation it is at a point where people should separate?
I think so. I mean, and like looking at it from the victim's perspective, like if you were in the animal's position and somebody was standing up for you and trying to liberate you, but then sharing like the most intimate part of themselves with one of the oppressors, like
Hmm.
it makes veganism look like it's not that serious, and it makes the animal liberation movement look like it's not that serious. And it's very serious and it's very important. It's very important that we all take it extremely seriously, like there's lives on the line, because there are.
Hmm. I, I totally get the view from your point of view. Uh, but yeah, like I know so many well-meaning activists and vegans who have non-vegan partners, and yeah, separating it's a toll in itself. So I've never like given a prescription on this that what should be done, but I see that you have a very strong opinion on this, and which I totally understand, because to be with someone forget about veganism in general, you need to have the fundamental values aligned, right? And this is a fundamental value which is not aligning. That being said, there's this friend of mine, and again, he has a non-vegan partner, and he was saying that, hey, making her vegan is kind of my advocacy. Like every time from time to time, I do that. So that's one thing. And he in fact said, he took it one step ahead and said this, that he feels that vegans should date non-vegans and then get them to become vegan.
I mean, I can hear where he's coming from on that, but if your reason to become vegan is for your partner, that's the wrong reason. And then what happens when you break up? You stop being vegan.
Yeah.
So,
No, you don't become vegan for your partner, but your partner is a driving force who's making you go vegan, hopefully for the right reasons. That would be like a cool form of activism.
I mean, yeah, I guess like I'm not going to use my time and my efforts as an activist to try to convince vegans to leave their non-vegan partners. If you're vegan and you're able to be with a non-vegan, I guess
Hmm.
whatever, that's you, but it could never be me.
Hmm. Yeah, I can understand that, and probably I share the same opinion as you do. But I just feel that, like I said, both of us are in a position of privilege in that sense, because I know a lot of people who, and probably they know it themselves as well, right? If they are truly ethical vegans who understand veganism, social justice movement, so on and so forth, deep down they know this, and probably they are not addressing that because they know that it will take a toll, and that's probably for the best, in the sense that okay, they can focus on other forms of activism. But yeah, it's a tricky topic actually.
Yeah.
Any message that you have for vegans? You already said that they should get into activism, and for non-vegan, like if you have to summarize things for them in one line, what would be that line be?
As long as you continue to not be vegan, you're the reason that animals are being exploited and oppressed. And if that doesn't align with your values, you need to do something about it and become vegan right now.
Hmm. Veganism is the moral urgency.
It is. And,
All
if you can't do it like right now, if you are coming up with excuses and ways around it and whatever, think about it from the victim's perspective. Just put yourself in their shoes. Have some empathy.
yeah, that is actually the crux of things, because we are in a position of privilege, and animals can't do anything against us. They can't offer us organized resistance. They can't rebel against what we are doing to them, and hence we are left with this option where people look inwards and reflect on their ethical values and moral systems, and then come to the conclusion. And the only way one can do this is via empathy and thinking from the victim's perspective, right? At least as of today. The alternate plan is, if you don't go vegan, then please don't worry, because Jade and I will make sure that someday we will transform this into a legal reform, and then we'll just make it a criminal offense, so it doesn't matter what you feel towards animal.
Right. Because so many people I've found since I started doing these discussions, lots of people use the law as their moral compass.
Yeah. Which means they don't have a moral compass, which is
I
very
know.
scary, right? And
It means, yeah, they would have been slave owners back when human slavery was legal.
yeah, and like we were just discussing, right, that like some of the people who are sexist, but they don't they try to blend into the society. The moment legality is taken off the table and we move into a state where there's no legal frameworks, then they will become predators.
Right.
All right, Jade. So I think this was an amazing conversation. I'm truly inspired by your work, and thank you so much, Jade, for your time. And I hope this was a decent conversation for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a great experience. I'm happy to have been up here.
Yeah, nice. All right, then. Thank you, everyone who all the viewers who have watched so far. And we will connect with you soon. And until we meet again, this is Jade and Shivam signing out. Namaste.